Hello, welcome to today's session on green regeneration, designing and investing for multifunctionality. I'm Sophie Shield. I'm the Manchester City Council Partnership Officer on Ignition, and I'm joined today by my colleagues from the wider project, Pete Stringer from City of Trees and Rachel Morrison from the Greater Manchester Combined Authority. We're going to share with you 3 case studies from the project on the topic of how to finance and maintain new and existing green spaces. So, when it comes to coping with climate change, cities face particular challenges as we have a density of people and assets in a dynamic urban environment, which can amplify the impacts of events such as flooding and heat waves. Fitting or indeed retrofitting natural climate adaptation measures needs space to manage increased rainfall and cool urban areas. Space is obviously at a premium in cities and means that our public services provide a key opportunity to increase resilience. Shared public spaces present opportunities to generate significant benefits for Greater Manchester citizens, but also present challenges around financing, competing priorities, and retrofitting around existing infrastructure. So in today's workshop, we're going to discuss some of the opportunities we looked at through Ignition to boost investment in climate resilience in 2 different types of shared spaces. So our urban town and city centre streets, and also our urban public parks. So we've got 3 different case studies that we're going to share with you. The first one around how to finance and maintain high quality new parks, with the example from the Victoria North development in Manchester. The second around how could we increase revenue from or to existing parks via a mechanism such as a Parks Foundation. And thirdly, how could we build green infrastructure into our city centre streets, with an example there from Edge Street in the northern quarter of Manchester. So this will just be a quick overview. And for those of you watching online, please do visit the website ignitiongm.com to find out more about the evidence base that we've used, our resources and our case studies. Thanks.
Thanks, Sophie. To start, let's look at the opportunities on our public parks. Public parks are one of our most frequently used public funded services. And when it comes to coping with climate change, they are kind of one of the most significant assets to adapt urban areas to climate change. So urban parks really have sort of 3 significant benefits in terms of climate adaptation. Firstly, they provide spaces for the storage and infiltration of rainwater. So this has many knock-on benefits for the safety of our urban areas. It reduces the amount of standing water on our highways, on our pavements, reducing numbers of accidents, and it reduces the frequency of flooding of properties as well. And these benefits will be particularly important given the estimated 30% increase in winter rainfall that we're likely to see by 2050. As well as these sort of flood benefits of public parks, parks also really help to cool urban areas and reduce the urban heat island effect. So they reduce air temperatures by around sort of 3 degrees C and provide vital cool spaces in heat waves, which will become increasingly common under climate change. At the same time, parks also enhance our personal resilience. They provide millions of users with opportunities for recreation and to boost their health and well-being. They reduce noise and air pollution, and they increase visitor numbers to nearby local businesses, as well as boosting everyone's property values nearby. Other technologies, such as sort of a tank or an air conditioning unit, can provide sort of individual benefits, such as water storage or cool air. But these technologies just don't really at the same time provide these raft of sort of wider socioeconomic benefits in a way that's compatible with the climate emergency. And West Gorton Sponge Park, which you can see pictured on the slide, is really a great example of a park that's been maximised for surface water benefits, but at the same time maintains a really useful space for community and for nature. It's not hard to agree that parks provide a significant social return on investment. Our research showed that every year parks in Salford deliver a benefit of over 20 million to society, and that's not even really taking into account the benefits in terms of property value. However, our national and local budgets for parks have massively declined. Park services across Greater Manchester have really worked hard to achieve more with less, but this has affected investment. And due to this legacy, There's also a level of caution from local authorities in taking on the maintenance and management of new green spaces. Rethinking parks finance has been really sort of accelerated over the last sort of few years, particularly with initiatives such as the Future Parks Accelerator and Nesta. And this work has showcased there's a range of options that local authorities to look at. So everything from parks trust models in Newcastle and Milton Keynes to sort of renewables in London. And talking to the 10 GM districts has also shown us the sort of diversity of smaller actions which are taking place at the local authority level. Through Ignition, we've had the opportunity to explore 2 models. We've looked at our opportunities to develop parks improvement districts, to more sustainably finance parks over the long term as part of new developments and redevelopments, and also our opportunities to maximise income generation on existing parks through the setup of Parks Foundations. And first, Sophie's going to talk us through some of her works on park improvement districts.
Thanks, Rach. The creation of high quality new green spaces within developments is also really key to making our cities more resilient. However, where these are more likely to require maintenance by a local authority with no associated increase in budget, new ways of thinking about this are needed. So our case study focuses on the Victoria North development in the north of Manchester. And City River Park is the collective name given to a suite of new and improved parks and public realm contained within this 15,000 home, 15-year Victoria North residential development to the north of the city centre. So the new public spaces associated with development will be largely created on land owned by the local authority. The first new green spaces will notably also be developed in advance of the first tranche of housing in that area. So the local authority, alongside private developer FEC, are therefore grappling with a couple of interlinked questions. Firstly, the maintenance costs. How will these be covered with no planned increase to the existing MCC parks maintenance budget? And secondly, how will the new portfolio of green spaces be physically managed and governed? So it was essential for us to try to find a mechanism to enable these spaces to become financially self-sustaining. So we explored quite a few different options, including contributions which could be made by taxation, for example, business improvement districts, by various different multi-agency fundings, and also income generation measures such as events or licensing of food or activity providers, and also around grants and donations. So the avenue that MCC have chosen to explore in more detail has been identified as a small estate service charge on the new residential and commercial property in the area, which should be combined with the investment of a commuted sum to help bring forward the development of the first green spaces in advance of the residential development, to deal with the sort of lag time that would be created where maintenance costs exceeded any income that you would get from that service charge. So ongoing discussions are happening at senior and political level for this proposed course of action. And once this approach has been formally agreed and tested in this area, it could be that it might pave the way for new guidance on how higher quality and higher functional green space could be included in new developments across the city. I'll hand back to Rachel for the next case study.
Okay, thanks, Sophie. So for existing parks, we've looked at opportunities for district scale parks foundations to be set up in Greater Manchester. Parks Foundations are essentially charitable platforms for parks, and they're set up to work with existing park stakeholders and to generate income, coordinate volunteers, and promote the use of parks. This is a model that's actually quite common already in the US and has been of increasing interest in the UK. Importantly, Parks Foundations, they don't take on the management and maintenance or the ownership of parks, but they're really trying to add value and generate income to reinvest in parks enhancement and improvement works. Through Ignition, we really wanted to test the viability of Parks Foundation and to see whether it was a viable option in Greater Manchester. And we worked with the district partners on Ignition, and they provided some of the data to help us understand the feasibility of setting up a Parks Foundation. Our modelling really looked over 5 years, and it showed that with the right composition of income generation activities, there is really positive potential to establish a viable parks foundation at the district scale in Greater Manchester, capable of generating sufficient surpluses to cover staff costs and also reinvest in parks activities and infrastructure. We found that achieving this financial viability requires blending quite a diverse range of commercial revenue generating opportunities with philanthropic grants and corporate sponsorship. Key income schemes identified included stuff like corporate giving, sponsorship and investment, trading income from assets such as car parks and also buildings, as well as individual donations and philanthropic grants. There are also, we identified quite a few barriers to Parks Foundations. So I think parks, we've got to remember, are really highly valued by citizens and therefore are quite a sensitive issue. And the success of a Parks Foundation is really acknowledged as going to be dependent on parks users, on local businesses and stakeholders, and would really require really strong support from the local authority. However, based on our research, the setup of a Parks Foundation could offer an opportunity to diversify parks finance and ring-fence funding for investment in parks over multiple years, in a way that could be supported by residents and way users. To summarise some of mine and Sophie's work on parks, parks are really going to be significant for the future of urban regions to help adapt to climate change across our city region. And they really need, these core urban green spaces really need to perform to their full potential. Through Ignition, we've explored these two models and they show promise for improving investment, but there is of course no silver bullet in terms of financing new and existing green space. Through our research, we've also heard about many other examples from districts across Greater Manchester about the different ways they're trying to adapt to improve parks finance. And it's clear that learning from others, collaborating in these spaces and being willing to try new ideas will be an important way forward in this space. Now I'll pass on to Pete to talk you through a more detailed case study of some of our work on streets.
As part of the Ignition project, the City of Trees explored Manchester city centre to identify streets where there was a scope for delivering green infrastructure and where businesses were present which could benefit from and potentially invest in street greening. One of the streets identified was Edge Street, which is like many streets in our towns and cities across Greater Manchester. It has little or no green infrastructure, and on the face of it, there seems to be little opportunity for installing any greenery there at all. The street is host to a variety of independent shops, restaurants, cafe bars and office space, and some residential accommodation on the upper stories. Edge Street is located in Manchester city centre's northern quarter, the city's creative urban heart. Prior to the Ignition project, City of Trees was approached by businesses on Edge Street who were keen to explore the potential for street greening. During the COVID pandemic, though, the street was temporarily pedestrianised to provide space for hospitality businesses to socially distance customers in outside dining areas. The temporary pedestrianised order closed off the street to vehicles other than deliveries. Consultants were employed to undertake an assessment of potential greening opportunities with a particular focus for utilising surface water running off the roads and from buildings via their downpipes. The City Council is planning to deliver a programme of highway works in 2022, which will involve closing off the street to through traffic other than deliveries and installing chicanes as anti-hostile vehicle measures. The design consultants therefore use the highway's proposed street layout as a basis for their recommended interventions. The consultants' proposals utilise the anti-hostile vehicle measures as rain gardens and for public seating, as this would help to disguise their purpose and create a positive perceived addition to the street scene. Additional build-outs of greenery were also proposed, as it was felt that greening of the chicanes on their own would not be enough to transform the hard feel of the street. As part of a wider piece of work undertaken by a master's student from the Manchester Metropolitan University, businesses in the Northern Quarter engaged in a willingness to pay survey for 4 benefits provided by different greening options: trees, green walls, parklets and rain gardens. Annual investment level options range from between £1 and £10 and from £31 to £40. The benefits that the interviewers were asked to put an investment value on were high customer capacity to increase footfall and sales, addressing surface runoff to reduce charges by water companies, positive outdoor experience to help increase customer retention, and an enhanced public perception of business as a result of their investment in the greenery. The green wall option received the highest willingness to pay values, and the much smaller rain gardens the least. It was surmised that this could be down to the perceived level of visual impact that would be achieved. City of Trees is currently engaging with the businesses, property owners and residents on Edge Street about the green proposals in the feasibility study. The core questions that are being asked are they supportive of the greening elements proposed? Do they think these greening options would have a positive impact? And hypothetically, would they be willing to contribute towards any of the installation costs or the ongoing maintenance via a management fee or through direct participation? To summarise, each of these examples show different ways to generate income, work with the private sector and commercial opportunities to blend public-private finance to help fund nature-based solutions. To accelerate investment in nature-based solutions in shared spaces, these three models collectively show us the need to gain comprehensive support and buy-in from multiple partners and key decision makers, ensure strong public-private partnerships to incentivize investment, supportive innovative thinking, embracing commercial opportunities and private benefits as well as public benefits, demonstrating multifunctionality and an alignment with as many strategic objectives as possible, and seizing windows of opportunities or catalysts for investment. That brings us to the end of the session. Really want to say thanks for joining us today. If you do want to find out more, please visit our website over the next few months to access the tools, case studies, and resources relating to nature-based solutions in shared spaces. Thank you.